Mark, are you there? You getting ready, Mark? Good morning, Elodie. You may have been muted. That's probably why you can't hear me.
Oh, it is. I'm sorry. Yes, good morning. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, you're fine. Good morning. How are you?
Fine, good.
Good. I like the picture in the background, Mark.
Thank you. My guardian frog.
I love it. I love the scheme of it, the glasses and the that's how we all feel now. We're all webinared out. That's what we
Yeah. So add some life to it.
Absolutely. So we'll get started in about a minute, as soon as 10 o'clock rolls around.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so I think we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. Very first thing I'm going to ask is that you please place yourself on mute. We do have a chat area where if you do have questions, you can certainly type those in there and we will try to get to them towards the end of the presentation. So good morning, my name is Diana Moya. I'm the South Bend Human Rights Commission Housing Director. Welcome to the Commission's webinar this morning. Our topic today is the Indiana Foreclosure Network Program, which is run by the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. Our guest speaker for today is Mark Nealon. Mark is a Director of Asset Preservation of the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. So before I turn this over to Mark, I'd like to share with you that, of course, the webinar is being recorded. You can find the link to view it on the city webpage, but the recording is actually viewable on the city YouTube page. And then I just mentioned, of course, that we will have a question and answer session towards the end of Mark's presentation. If we are unable to get to your question, we will certainly reply to it as soon as we are able to. And of course, you're always welcome to call the commission at 574-235-9355 to ask any questions that you might have regarding today's presentation. And I'm sure that Mark will share some communication information as well. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, I will.
Great. So without further ado, I will turn this over to Mark. Mark, buenos dias. Buenos dias. And thank you for joining us today. So we're excited to hear about your presentation.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it right on over to you. So there we go.
All right. So, as we said, I'm here to share with you, some information about the Indiana Foreclosure Prevention Network and Indiana's Hardest Hit Fund program. Can everyone see the slides?
Yes, we can see them.
Uh-oh. Well, there's our website if you want to if you want to see it. Let's see. All right, here we go. So, as many of you may be aware, Governor Holcomb issued some executive orders earlier this year in the midst of the COVID crisis. And those were for the duration of the state of emergency that he declared. And among that was a prohibition on evictions and foreclosure for non-payment of rent or mortgage payments. That prohibition or that moratorium has now been extended to June 30th. So we have a few more weeks of that before that expires. And it's possible, depending on what the situation is, that it could be extended, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. So if any of you encounter anyone who is having issues with their mortgage companies or their landlords trying to evict them in the midst of this, there's a link there to the, excuse me, Indiana Attorney General's Consumer Complaint Division, where they can file a consumer complaint. So let's talk a little bit about what IHCDA did amidst this. So the governor directed the Indiana Department of Financial Institutions to work with IHCDA and others to come up with some ideas relating to assistance to be provided during the COVID crisis. And so what ultimately resulted was a resource guide. It does underscore the importance that homeowners and renters communicate with both their mortgage lenders or servicers and their landlords openly. And there's a resource guide that can be found here. And I believe this presentation will be made available to you after, and the links should be active in that presentation. So you'll be able to go and visit that resource guide. We also have, IHCDA also has an energy assistance program that is available for individuals who may be affected by the COVID crisis and may have difficulty making utility payments. My understanding is that there was a moratorium on that, on the disconnection of utilities during this crisis as well. But again, here's some information on that if you need it. So now let's get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. Let's talk about the Indiana Foreclosure Prevention Network. So the Indiana Foreclosure Prevention Network was created in 2007, 2008 by the Indiana legislature in response to that last crisis that we had, economic crisis. Didn't involve public health. It was the health of the housing market, as you all may remember. And unemployment was hovering around 10% statewide, and foreclosures were just through the roof. And so the legislature created the Indiana Foreclosure Prevention Network. And we, with the Foreclosure Prevention Network, we're able to provide housing counseling to all Indiana homeowners free of charge. And we have a network of, we currently have, I believe, 12 HUD, either HUD certified or HUD affiliated organizations that can provide housing counseling throughout the state of Indiana. And those, again, it's at no charge. Housing counselors will work with homeowners, help them contact their lender, try to get a modification or a workout, and or work with the Hardest Hit Fund, which is what I'll talk about next. So the Hardest Hit Fund came about shortly after the Indiana Foreclosure Prevention Network was created. In 2010, we were selected, the state of Indiana was selected by the Department of the Treasury, Office of Financial Stability, was among 18 states and the District of Columbia who were deemed the hardest hit by the mortgage foreclosure crisis. And with that, Indiana ultimately received $284 million in TARP funds, those bank bailout funds, all of that money that went to bail out GM and Chrysler and AIG and all of those. Some of that money actually came to Indiana as well. And we're still working on that some 9 years later. So what can we do with Hardest Hit Fund? With Hardest Hit Fund, we are able to provide direct to lender mortgage payment assistance on behalf of homeowners who meet our qualifications. And so anyone who's had an involuntary financial related hardship, such as unemployment, underemployment, a medical hardship, death of a contributing household member, even divorce, may be eligible for what's called reinstatement only assistance. Reinstatement only assistance is a one-time catch-up payment to pay past due mortgage payments. And then the homeowner would continue making their mortgage payments moving forward. So for example, if you were temporarily laid off because of the COVID crisis, and you got a few months behind on your mortgage, but now things are opening back up, you're back to work, you'll be able to make your mortgage payment for July, but you don't have March, April, and May sitting around in the bank, and the bank wants, obviously, their 3 months of past due mortgage payments. We can step in and make that payment on the homeowner's behalf directly to the lender. And that's called reinstatement only. It's a one-time payment of up to $30,000. We also have, in response to this COVID crisis, because so many people were laid off and unemployment shot up so dramatically, we were able to get approval from Treasury to resume making what's called monthly payment assistance. And so for any homeowner who's had an involuntary employment-related financial hardship that occurred on or after January 1 of this year, may get up to 6 months of monthly payment assistance if they qualify. So if they're currently unemployed and receiving unemployment benefits through the Department of Workforce Development, we can come in and we can make that homeowner's mortgage payment directly to their lender on their behalf every month for up to 6 months. The mortgage, and that third bullet point, needs to be edited. It should say the mortgage does not need to be delinquent. So you don't have to be behind on your mortgage as long as you're unemployed and receiving unemployment benefits and meet other qualifications. You may be eligible for the monthly payment assistance. Again, it's up to $30,000 and payments are made directly to the lender. Here's some basic eligibility criteria. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but feel free to ask questions if you like. Obviously, you have to be an Indiana homeowner. You have to live in the home. And for monthly assistance, you are unable to make monthly mortgage payments because of an involuntary employment-related financial hardship, meaning you got laid off, something happened with your employment income was affected, and you can't make your current monthly mortgage payment. We can provide monthly assistance. Or, as I said, if you're able to make those monthly mortgage payments, but you don't have the money to catch up on past due payments, we can step in and help. Applicants can apply by visiting our website at 877gethope.org. It's a 4-step application process. It's pretty quick, pretty simple. Once homeowners do that, we will then refer the homeowner to a housing counselor who can help them complete the rest of the application, gather documents that they might need, and then submit those to IHCDA for review. So, all this sounds too good to be true, right? Well, it's not too good to be true, but there is a catch. So here's the catch. HHF is a loan. It's a junior lien against the property. It's no recourse, non-amortizing. That means no payments, no interest. We're not coming after people for not making payments. That's not the way it works. It's a forgivable loan. It's a 10-year lien. You only have to pay it back if you sell your home for a profit before the 10 years passes. You only have to pay back as much as you can with the profit. Rest of it, we forgive. And here's an example. Say you receive $10,000 in hardest hit fund assistance. Next year, you sell your house, you make $10,000 in profit. You would pay back the entire $10,000 hardest hit fund loan. But if you only made $2,000 in profit, you'd pay back the $2,000. We'd forgive the $8,000. If you broke even or lost money on the sale, we'd completely forgive the loan. In addition, after year 5, 20% is forgiven each year. So the longer you keep your home, the less you have to pay back. And we really do mean this. If you were to receive the full $30,000 in assistance, you sold your home the next year, you made $10 in profit. You would pay us $10 and we would forgive $29,990, just like that. So there's a catch, but it's really not that bad a catch. Now, what about refinancing after hardest hit fund assistance? This is a question that we get a lot, and so we make it a point to notify everyone how this works, and individuals, we notify them now even before they accept the assistance, before they sign the documentation. We make sure they understand the certain terms of refinancing. So hardest hit fund does not prevent you from refinancing, except that you can't cash out without paying us back. And again, you can refinance. We can't tell you whether or not to refinance. The only issue is whether IHCDA would jump back into a subordinate or a junior position behind your refinance loan, because we are a race to record state, meaning whatever liens recorded first is what gets paid first. Liens are paid in the order that they were recorded. So if you were to refinance, that refinance loan would be recorded after the hardest hit fund loan, meaning that if you were to sell your property, hardest hit fund would be in line for repayment before the refinance loan. Banks don't go for that. Most of the time they will not, well, all the time, they will not agree to do that. So what we do in that situation is we sign what's called a subordination agreement, which allows us so that we voluntarily jump behind the previous or the refinance loan. So if you're trying to cash out, you've either got to pay us back or we will not subordinate. Now, if you're not cashing out, you just want to refinance for better terms, better rate, we'll subordinate, not an issue, not a problem. The only exception is, and we try to be understanding and lenient with respect to a cash out refi. If you are cashing out to make necessary structural repairs, for instance, a storm came through, it damaged your roof, maybe you have $1,000 deductible, and you just don't have the money to meet that deductible, so you need to cash out to pay that to get the repairs done to your roof. That happens. In that situation, more than likely we'll subordinate. But if you're wanting to do a cash out refinance because you saw this awesome 8-person hot tub on sale, unfortunately we can't subordinate to that. And the funds that we collect from lien satisfaction repayments are recycled back into the program to provide assistance to other homeowners. Here's some additional resources. Some of them I mentioned before. Again, when you receive a copy of this presentation, these links will be active so you can visit and take a look at those and the information that you see there. And now I will open things up for questions and give the floor back to Diana.
Great. Mark, thank you for the wonderful information that you've just provided. I have, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. There's a question in the chat area, and I believe the question is from Michelle, and she's asking, what are the income requirements?
Okay, so the income requirements, and I left these out because sometimes they get a little too technical. Mm-hmm. But for the reinstatement only, so for the one-time catch-up payment, we are looking at a front-end debt-to-income ratio of 38% or below. And they can't have a gross household income above $150,000. So those are the income requirements for reinstatement only. For monthly assistance, what we do is we calculate the gross monthly household income, excluding unemployment benefits. So we don't count any unemployment benefits in that calculation. Mm-hmm. Then we take 25% of the gross monthly household income and compare it to the mortgage payment. If 25% of their income is higher than their mortgage payment, then they won't qualify. Mm-hmm. But if their mortgage payment exceeds 25% of their gross monthly household income, then they would qualify for monthly assistance. So essentially what we're saying is, if you can take 1/4 of your household income and make your entire mortgage payment, then you don't qualify. Mm-hmm. But if with 1/4 of your your monthly income, you still can't cover your mortgage payment, then we can step in and make that payment on your behalf. And then there are some area median income requirements for monthly assistance, but we don't have a problem with that. It's a 140% of area median income adjusted for household size. And we don't disqualify many, if any, people for that. Just to give you an idea, for the life of the program, we first provided assistance in May of 2011. We've assisted over 10,800 homeowners. Our approval rate is just above 84%.
Wow.
We've provided more than $160 million in assistance. About 80% of our households have incomes below $50,000.
Wow, that's a lot. So the uptick in cases from, say, for example, January to present day, I imagine has been incredible, has it not?
Well, actually, it hasn't been quite what we thought it would be, primarily because the federal government, so Fannie and Freddie, you've heard of them, those FHA loans. So they put out guidance to all of their servicers saying that if homeowners were affected by COVID and had job layoffs, they could get a forbearance, meaning that they didn't have to make their monthly payments. Now they were still financially responsible, but they're essentially what they did was, we'll issue you a temporary moratorium on having to make your mortgage payments. And so that, surprisingly, that affected quite a few loans out there. And what eventually happened is that servicers who were servicing both those FHA loans and conventional loans, they just started doing the same thing for both. And so homeowners, if they reached out to their lenders and they were requesting assistance and let their lenders know, hey, I lost my job or something because of COVID, they were getting forbearances and not having to make those mortgage payments. Now the question becomes, what happens when that forbearance period ends? Some lenders are doing it differently. Some are tacking it on to the end of the loan, those types of things. What we are trying to do is, as best we can, step in at that point and see if we can't make that payment so that it doesn't get tacked on to the end of the loan, stretch out the loan, stretch out the interest that they have to pay, those types of things. Homeowners can apply. Even if they're in a forbearance, we will still contact the lender and let the lender know, hey, this homeowner, you may have this homeowner in a forbearance, but we have hardest hit funds available. We may be able to assist. There was some confusion among lenders at the beginning, but now most of them are coming to realize that it's okay for them to accept the money. They were really worried at first that they would get in trouble from FHA, from Fannie, Freddie, if they accepted those funds. Now they're realizing that it's okay if they do. So more and more are starting to accept those funds in lieu of a forbearance. And so with that, now that that's coming online, now we're starting to see the uptick. But the flood that we thought we were going to get initially really was sort of curtailed by the guidance that that FHA put out.
So let me ask you something. If you may see an uptick in cases after the moratorium ends, does this become like a waiting list type of a situation? And if so, that would be the first question. And number two, if you're on the waiting list, and you don't know how long you may be on the waiting list. What are the resources that are being provided at that time to that person who is on the waiting list and is desperate for assistance?
For us, there should not be a waiting list. So if you come to us for assistance with hardest hit funds, we are going to process those in the order that those applications in the order that they're received. We have somewhere between 25 and $30 million available to provide assistance. And the reason I say somewhere between is because on an ongoing basis, we have money coming in that we are recycling back into the program. So in any given quarter, we may bring in anywhere from another $500,000 to $800,000 that gets recycled right back into the program.
Okay.
We are able to accept applications through June 30 of 2021.
Okay.
And so we're going to keep rocking and rolling until it looks like we're going to run out of money. And at that point, we'll put out a notice that says, okay, we're going to stop taking applications at X date. But as of now, the way things are looking, we may have enough funding to go right on through to June 30 of 2021.
2021, June 30th. So how do I know if my service provider or bank is a participant? How do I find that information out?
Yes, if you go to 877gethope.org, there is a link to participating servicers, and you can look at that and see if your lender is on that list. Even if they're not on the list, it's okay. Go ahead and fill out the application. We still encounter occasionally a lender who's not on the list. We will reach out to the lender and explain hardest hit fund to them and try to get them signed up and on board.
Wow.
And we've had, probably 8 to 10 new lenders come on this year already, and we have more than 300 on board already. As I said, we've been doing this since 2011. So there are a lot of lenders on board. All of the big major lenders and servicers are on board.
Okay. Mark, what happens if I don't qualify for the hardest hit funds? What happens then?
If you don't qualify for hardest hit funds, the housing counselors that work with you, that you're assigned to, can assist you with trying to get a workout directly from your lender. So they can help you contact your lender, gather the information, the documentation that you may need to go directly to your lender and request some sort of modification or something that might get you either get you a new payment, a lower payment, or again, maybe get you some type of forbearance if you don't already have one, something to try to bridge the gap or solve the issue.
Oh, that is great information to know. And I certainly will share along your presentation. So any last thoughts that you would like to share with us, Mark?
I am going to type real quick my information in here.
I appreciate that.
Don't laugh at my lack of typing skills.
That is quite all right. Well, while Mark is typing, I am going to share that next week, on Tuesday, June 16th at 10 o'clock, our guest speaker will be Estela Sandoval of the Department of Labor, and she will be covering COVID-19 issues as it relates to the area of employment. I hope that you will all join us here next Tuesday, again, June 16th at 2020, when we have our guest speaker from the Department of Labor. And so we're looking forward to that. And the co-facilitator for that will be my colleague, Crystal McCain. So Mark, I see your information is up there in the chat area. I hope folks can see it. The phone number, his direct dial is 317-234-6976. And His email address is there as well. And again, if you need his presentation and or his slides and information, feel free to email me at dmoya@southbendin.gov, and I will make sure to send that to you right away. Mark? Oh, there's a question there. You, the attendees into the meeting. Oh. We will definitely get out some information to the attendees as we always do for email blast. If we don't have you on that email blast, please call us so that we can add you. We can certainly, never have more than, well, we would love to have the entire community join us. So just know that. Mark?
And I'll add one thing, Diana, that I should have mentioned earlier. The City of South Bend's Community Development Department is one of our counseling agencies. So they have housing counselors right in the City of South Bend, Department of Community Development. They cover all of St. Joseph County. If you're in St. Joe County and you need assistance, you need not go further than the City of South Bend Community Development.
Awesome. Awesome. I will make sure to get that information out there as well. Thank you for those links. I will definitely get that together and share that as well. Mark, thank you so very much for your time today. We appreciate you. And thank you for the wealth of information.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
All right. Thank you, folks. Have a great day.
Thanks, Diana. Great information. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Aladine. I appreciate you.